We will turn our attention this afternoon to Afghanistan. We've had some really fascinating conversations about Iraq this morning, and it's my pleasure to put Afghanistan kind of firmly on the agenda. In putting this conference together, it was always very clear to us that there were differences, significant differences, in terms of current circumstances, but also in terms of culture and politics and history between Iraq and Afghanistan. And so in putting this panel, in putting the day together, there was, it was never meant to suggest that these were kind of apple-to-apple comparisons. And I think that our discussions today will show, in fact, some of the differences. But it is my hope that as we open our minds to think about the questions that we've started to discuss this morning, that it will prompt us to draw, if not comparisons, points of reference that we can use to think about issues in both Iraq and Afghanistan, not to mention the United States and Japan and the pre-modern Islamic world. It's my pleasure to do two introductions right now in the interest of time. I will first introduce Dr. Seema Samar, who will give us the setting of the stage, again, as Ambassador Estrabadi did this morning, with regard to Afghanistan. I will not go into a lengthy introduction of Dr. Samar. She gave some wonderful remarks last night at the National Constitution Center and was introduced there. I will only say at this point that Dr. Samar is the chairperson of the Afghan Independent Human Rights Commission, and she is known around the world as a champion of women's rights. And as someone who has worked on women's rights and in other parts of the world, I have always talked about women's rights, that you can't protect women's rights without protecting everyone's rights. And so I think I would like to introduce Dr. Samar not as a champion of women's rights alone, but as a champion of everyone's rights. Following Dr. Samar's presentation, Professor Jacques Delisle, who is the Stephen Kozin Professor of Law at the law school and a good friend and colleague of mine as an expert in Chinese law, will moderate a panel, and he will introduce the panel and the speakers for that. Thank you. Dr. Samar.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I would like to thank the organizer in giving me the possibility to be here among the experts on law. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on law. I'm just maybe observer, but I will speak a little bit about the problems and challenges in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, after the fall of the Taliban, after 2001, actually end of 2001, we had a war for 23 years in different phases. We had the Russians, and we had the war with the Russians. And then we had the Mujahideen group. We had the war among ourselves. It was internal war. And then we had Taliban, who came after the Mujahideen in power. And they had their own laws and regulation. So what was happening, Afghanistan has different ethnic groups. We have Pashtuns, we have Tajik, we have Hazaras, we have Uzbek, we have Turkmen, we have Baloch, we have Nuristanis, and Pashais. So we have different ethnic groups in the country. And then we also have different language in the country. We do have different, although the majority of Afghan people are Muslim, but we have, again, Sunni and Shia among the Muslims, and we have Ismailis. And then we also have a small Hindu in Sikh in Afghanistan. So it's quite complicated. The reason I'm saying that this ethnic groups and different religion, unfortunately, the ethnicity was used by some of the political parties in Afghanistan just to have their own hand on power, or to keep their own position and power in the country. So that does cause a lot of cost a lot of problem and mistrust between the ethnic group, between the different religious group. Sometimes some of our people claim that the Pashtun is 65% and the Tajik claim that they are 45%. So practically this too is 110%. And then we don't have any space for the others. So that the whole question of majority and minority is a problem in my view. So we had after the fall of the Taliban, it was part of the Bonn Agreement that we should have a new constitution, and the base for the new constitution would be the constitution that we had in 1964. What was happened actually, they established a big commission to draft the constitution, and unfortunately it was headed by a person who is very fundamentalist actually. And then the overall, as I mentioned last night, we had different countries involved in Afghanistan, so everybody had an expert. So we were seeing experts from Swiss, we were seeing experts from France, we were seeing, of course, experts from US and Britain. So there was a lot of experts, and I don't know exactly what was their role because I was not in the Constitution Commission. And the Constitution Commission was, unfortunately, was not very transparent to us, to the Human Rights Commission. What we did actually, we thought that we have to take, to be responsible citizen, we went to see the Constitution Commission. Of course, we went with some recommendation to them. We insist on human rights and equality in the country, equality between the different people, ethnic group, and also equality between the men and women in Afghanistan. We had some proposal for disabled people in the country, and we had some proposal for the orphans that we have. We do have a lot of widows in the country, so we were asking for some kind of social service protection for those vulnerable groups in Afghanistan. But unfortunately, they were not really had the idea even to accept all those kind of recommendations from our side. And when they started to draft the constitution, they were willing to share with the warlords or the leaders of the different political parties at night, but not with the Human Rights Commission. It was kind of a hidden document, not with the people also. So that was one of the big problem, because in my view, that whenever we want to draft a constitution or make a constitution for a country, one of our aims should be to build the confidence and trust of the public to that document. Otherwise, that document cannot be supported by the public or cannot be respected by the public. So anyway, because the Constitution Commission was not willing to share the information with us, we were hearing some rumors that they want to have such a system in the country, I don't know what and what in the Constitution. Then we, in the Human Rights Commission, we decided to draft a Constitution. So we sat and we drafted the Constitution, and we published it in 3 languages, in Persian, in English, and Pashto. So what we did, I took the draft to Ibrahimi, who was a SRSG on that time, and we sent it to the American Embassy. When Zalmay Khalilzad was ambassador on that time, I took a copy to the president, and our agenda was to at least to have some kind of idea for the people, because the people of Afghanistan, honestly, we have very high illiterate people, and they don't know what is the Constitution. So our aim was to give an idea for the people that there are possibilities of better approach to the Constitution, including the system. Of course, we were in favor of parliamentary system rather than presidential system. So we did that in order to encourage the people, and we distributed mainly to the people who were thinking that they would come in this Loya Jirga Constitution in order to ratify Constitution. Then what was happened, just 2-3 days before the convention of the Loya Jirga, the executive director of the Constitution Loya Jirga, he called our office, he said, we have 500 delegation. Can you send 600 copies of your Constitution to us. The interesting part is coming. We did send the 600 copies of those constitution to them because they said that they promised that they will put in the file of each delegate. So we go to the constitutional lawyer jirga, and our constitution is not there. So the whole constitutional lawyer jirga was continued for 2 weeks, but we couldn't find where was our constitution. So what we did, we were not allowed actually to take a lot of documents and papers to the constitutional lawyer jirga. Then we had only between 90 to 100. So because I had the privilege to be VIP and go from the other side, so I took those copies and put it on the table for the delegates. I'm trying to say that where was the commitment to be transparent, to be inclusive when we were drafting our constitution? So why do we expect the people to respect the constitution? So there is a lot of question. And I think that one of the problems was there was lack of political will in order to have a good democratic political constitution in Afghanistan. So there's a lot of weaknesses, a lot of contradiction in the constitution. Imagine during the Constitution Commission, the lawyer jirga, instead of we as an Afghan try to really discuss the important issues which are in the Constitution, we focused on the national anthem should be in Pashto or in Persian. This is the two languages in Afghanistan. We fought for this 3 days, and it was organized by somebody from outside in order to keep us busy, in order to keep the system in place. Then we had to really fight for 3 days to have the national anthem in Pashto or in Persian. Finally, we got it in Pashto. But in my view, personally, as a citizen of that country, it does not matter. It should have been in the minority language, maybe Turkmen or Pashtun, because that is not very important. The important issue is that which kind of system we have, what kind of protection for the people's basic rights and all the other issues. One of the problems, like if I just mentioned, that constitution was ratified by the Afghans. And we did not realize that we put the presidential election in March. And then last year and this year also the parliamentary election was also around that time. We realized that it's not possible to do the election in Afghanistan because some part of the country will be closed because of the snow. Imagine we didn't know our country. So that was somehow imposed and it was ratified finally. And then after ratification, there were a lot of changes in the constitution, unfortunately, on some of the issues. Again, it comes on minority and majority. The issue of the nomads, and then the majority of nomads are Pashtun, and then how many are the Pashtuns? So there were specific seats for the nomads. So a lot of problem. And then it comes to the parliament. Of course, on the election law, we had a lot of problem. Again, I insist by saying that it was lack of political will for promoting a more democratic, transparent, acceptable democracy for the people rather than their own interest. Then we had the election, parliamentary election, or I would touch another issue, that in the constitution we put a lot of, we have presidential election and then we have parliamentary election. We would have provincial council election and then we will have district council election. And then we have election for mayor. Practically in Afghanistan, in a country where we depend on the pockets and the mercy of the donors, we will have every year election, which is not really very practical and useful for the country. But we were so happy that we will have, we will have district council, we will have provincial council, we will bring democracy this way. And practically, who comes through those in this and the situation that we have and the circumstances that we live, we bring the warlords to those positions. And it's same in the parliament. So we had no proper vetting policy, no proper willing, actually, to have accountability or to vet those people from coming to position of power. Again, it's in the Constitution that it says, we were insisting on that time that at least they should put the person who's famous on war crimes and crimes against humanity should not stand as a candidate. But of course, that was not accepted because we have a lot of famous, powerful people. So they put it, the person who's convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity cannot stand. But imagine war crimes and crimes against humanity is not defined in our country. So at least in Iraq, they did differently. They had that special court, but nothing for us. So what's happened? All those people are coming to the parliament, and now when they are passing the law, they pass an amnesty law for themselves. There was, we keep saying, impunity law, because they give kind of a special situation or protection for themselves. They pass an amnesty law that nobody can say or talk or even question anyone from the beginning of jihad until 2001, whatever they did, whoever. So it's kind of the people who were involved on destruction of the cities, the villages. They destroyed the water supplies, whatever they could, they did. From the 78 until end of 2001. So they have full amnesty. Nobody can talk against them. So this is the parliament who promote rule of law or bill, or at least passing a good law to protect the people's rights. And the other example is the personal Shia status law, which I think somehow you don't know the detail, but you do know how bad was it. And they think those people who are sitting over there and passing the law or ratifying the law for us, for the Afghan people, they think as they're very proud, or they think that it is their pride. This is an Afghan man who could put a lot of restriction on women's movement and children's movement and not protect the people's rights. Rather, they're happy to violate the people's rights. So it's a big challenge for promoting rule of law in the country and also promoting democracy in the country. So, and then if we look at the legal system in the country, how much we really paid attention. I'm saying this because it's not only the Afghans who decide in Afghanistan, it's all the international community as partner to Afghanistan. So starting from police, finally this year we decided that how many national police we should have. 3 years ago they started to again to build a group and give them a weapon and call them tribal militias. So there were a lot of discussion from the Afghan community against that kind of a system. Then they changed it auxiliary police. And then auxiliary police had a lot of, a lot of people stand against it. Then they changed it to local defense initiative. And now what we recently, from last year, they started in Afghanistan, the surge idea from Iraq. Because we have the Iraqi commander back in Afghanistan. So now we don't know what they really do. When we ask them, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Because the people in Afghanistan has really a negative experience with those militias, the tribal militias. This was started during the Russians in Afghanistan during Najib government, they establish tribal militias and use one tribe against the other tribe. Our General Dostum is an example of that tribal militia, and we cannot control him. So we try to establish another tribal militias or another type of warlord because we want to push the community to defend themselves or give the community possibility to defend themselves, not police. So the question here that are we really seriously wants to push the legal system in the country in rule of law? If that's the case, why not police? Then we are going to civil, I don't know, search, and I don't know what they call it. They have different names. And then on the reform of the judiciary system in Afghanistan. As I said, everybody was in Afghanistan. Everybody wanted to pick up one sector of institution building or nation building, I don't know. So this reform of the judiciary system left for Italian. So Italian took it as so Italian, our leading country, on reform of the judiciary system. For a while, the Italians were not able to find what they should do. For 3 years, actually. They could not find a policy or a strategy what to do, from where they should start. We have Ministry of Justice, we have Prosecutor Office, and then we have the Supreme Court. They were walking around the tree, and nobody was willing to help and coordinate. And of course, I have to say that the other side, our international partner, were also not interested. UN was there, and UNDP, the rule of law, was doing all these things. And we are still facing a lot of problem in the judiciary system, and it's not yet done. I have to say, with all the respect to my colleague, we did not really achieve a lot on reform of the formal judiciary system. But these days, we are looking for informal justice system to be supported, to be reconciled with the formal justice system. I think what should be done in every other countries, post-conflict countries, I hope the international community will learn from the mistakes which has been done in Afghanistan and Iraq. We might have new conflicts in some other parts of the world, and then please do not repeat the mistakes that has been done in Afghanistan and Iraq on constitutional building. I think the important part is to build the confidence of the public to the process, to the constitution. And then the second principle, in my view, is that we should not negotiate. We should not really step back by using, we respect the culture and the religion of the country, and then leave the principles of human rights and equality out of the Constitution. These are the principles that I think every religion respected, and we have to really do it and push for that. Finally, I think every country, Iraq has their different ethnic group and different language. We do have the same, I hope not, but most probably Sudan will be the next case. And they are also there in the same, different people, different color, different religion, different language. So we have to keep the principles of equality and push for equality and try to convince the people within that country that the only solution to solve the conflict in a country would be equality and respect for human dignity. Thank you very much.